All right, the Hangout on Air is live.
Sweetness.
Now I just have to wait an hour and a half for what I just said to come back to me.
Just an hour and a half, right?
I'm going to go out for a bite. I'll be back.
So who's riding Pigeon? Is that you, Mark?
Huh? Oh, I have been forever.
Yeah, I know. I just keep hearing the pigeon tones every once in a while.
Oh, no, you shouldn't be hearing it from me.
I'm hearing it from the feed somewhere.
Definitely not me. So
well, that must be the chat room then. Let me mute that. Oh, funny, I don't hear it. Why are you hearing it? Oh, because I have my laptop plugged in. Yes, that was me.
Okay, I just thought it was funny the other day. Last week when we heard it, or we were doing this, and I heard it a couple times. I'm like, pigeon, huh? I haven't heard that sound in a little bit.
No, see, I have my laptop plugged in so that I can play a voicemail later on. And so the pigeon sounds were coming through there as well.
Like I said, it wasn't that big of a deal to me. I just thought it was funny because I haven't heard pigeon in a long time because I quit using it. None of the people that I talk to uses those protocols anymore.
But I mean, all of them?
Well, it's the only one that would actually even benefit me is Google, and I could just run Hangouts to do that one.
Because I use Pigeon for the IRC in the chat room. I use it for all of them. It's XMPP.
Yeah, well, the only ones I run on a daily basis is Hangouts, because no one else is using the other channels. So I don't even think I've logged into the other ones in forever. I still use, and then I'm using XChat for the IRC. Or at least this currently is XChat. It was HexChat.
I need to make this. I can't type and talk, or you talk at the same time because of this feature that Google's built into Hangouts, where when you're typing, it mutes your mic, which is handy for annoying people who clickety-clackety during a conference call. But that's not me. I'm, typing notes. I'm making adjustments. I'm doing whatever. I'm talking in the chat room. And every time I press more than 3 keys at once, it mutes my mic. My mic being the entire input for the show.
Well, that doesn't work then.
So sometimes when you guys are talking, I'll be making notes or clicking to another web page or whatever, and it mutes the mic, and there goes the Hangout.
Crazy.
Thank you for adding that feature without asking me.
Well, and I don't even think there's a spot to turn that off.
No, as far as I know, there's no way to turn it off.
That's weird. You would think they'd give you an option to turn that on or off in like the control room or something.
See, I'm typing now. It's not muting me now.
Yeah, no, you're still loud and clear.
Well, you'll always hear it because you're hearing me over Skype.
Right.
All it mutes is the Hangout.
Huh.
Which is fine because it doesn't affect anybody who downloads it, but anybody watching live or watching on YouTube later may have between 15 and 30 seconds of silence while I type something.
And yet we're all talking,
right?
Our mouthing heads.
Okay. I think now we're ready to record.
Okay. I'm recording now.
I have started my recording.
That was very good. You give a guy a headphone and a microphone, and he suddenly becomes something funny that I can't come up with right now. Insert witty comment here.
Funny comment about radio announcing voice here.
I was just thinking today, I'll put this on the show because it has nothing to
Okay.
do with Linux. So I'll go ahead and put that in there.
I found out how to stop the auto mute, Mark.
Okay.
You have to create or edit the file config/Google Talk plugin/options.
Right. Assuming that works in Linux.
Well, sure.
Or if you can
Well-
find that config file in Linux.
So yes, email me that if you would, and I'll try to do it. I'm not going to do it right now.
I
Come
will
on.
send it out
Let's-
to both of
Let's
us.
live edit this stuff right now.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Let's go digging into config files during the show, recording of a show. Not before, but actually during. That would be awesome.
That would be. Come on.
No,
It'd be
maybe
great
not.
fun. Live
You know,
on the
that
edge,
would make
Mark.
a good episode, live tweaking.
Your definition of good episode and mine vary drastically. If you think that
No.
would be a good episode,
You know, you would not want to experience a train wreck, but watching one in slow motion.
I mean, I've seen
Come on.
video training tutorials. The speech portion of my brain is not working today, guys. So
Well, this should be fun.
this
then.
is it's a good thing I'm not doing anything requiring thinking fast on my feet and extemporizing. But I've seen where people do that, and it ends up being like 30 seconds of silence followed by clickety clickety clickety, then clickety 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 clickety. No, that's not it. Clickety clickety. Oh, good. Clickety
Found
clickety.
it.
It's not riveting.
Well, that's why
Oh.
we have three of us, because one person
Yeah.
could be live tweaking,
You
the
two
other person
vamp.
could be making smart
Yeah.
comments. It'd be
And
awesome.
then everything comes crashing down. What just happened there was
Mark blew up the show.
it was actually a small nuclear reaction that happened in Mark's basement.
And we're going to insert the ad for everyday listeners right now.
Oh, it would be great fun.
Okay, fun maybe, not a good show. What was I doing? It had something to do with a podcast, I'm pretty sure.
I think we're getting ready to do the intro. That's it. It's got to be the intro.
Something like that. Hold on. Wait for it.
Ooh. Turn off your phones.
That wasn't me.
No, that was me.
Oh, okay.
I'm just reminding everybody to turn off their phones. Since mine decided to make the Mega Man death sound, I figured it'd be a good idea to remind everybody.
Yeah, I'm afraid I have to turn in my geek credentials because I didn't know that. Any good geek should know that.
What was hilarious is my son picked that one off. Just out of the blue, he just was like, "Hey, that was Mega Man's dying sound." That one made me chuckle, and my geek pride swelled.
I don't think I ever actually played that game.
Oh,
I know.
shame on you.
I know. I have to turn in my neck beard. All right, here we go. 4 minutes in, let's do a show.
Okay.
I'm just waiting for the noise to stop. It's like that annoying teacher who stands in front of the class and just waits. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everyday Linux, episode 179. That's how we roll. Recorded February 8th, 2015, and brought to you by Element OP Productions. ElementOP.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Linux show that's not about Linux, but about life in the context of Linux. I am your host, Mark, the Sultan of the Soapbox Cockerel, and joining me this week are your stalwart co-hosts, Chris, the Command Line Godfather Needs, and Seth, the Gooey Kid Anderson. Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, Mark, and everyone out there in TV internet land. I hope everyone's had a great week. Mine should be entertaining since I start on call as of tomorrow.
Nice.
Cool. And I would like to welcome everyone to the wonderful world of internet radio.
I'm actually on call at this very moment. The on-call phone is sitting right here beside me. Handy little
fun.
Verizon flip phone. Yeah, it rarely ever rings on the weekends, and I've never had it disrupt the show that I can remember. But it's there. I do an on-call rotation every 8 weeks, I think it is, and
Yeah.
this is my turn.
So what is the SLA required for that?
Immediate. This phone is for emergency use only. So if somebody's calling this phone, they need help now.
There's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what mine's like too.
So anyway. So there are a number of holy wars that have been raging on the internet for years. GNOME versus KDE.
Yeah.
Vim versus Emacs.
Yeah, Vim wins. So.
I
Wayland
think we all lose
versus
then.
Mir. And I unknowingly stumbled into not just one but two last week when I brought up professional wrestling and made mention of global warming. My email has been lit up with references to professional wrestling and global warming, because I mentioned something about the fact that there are experts on both sides of the global warming debate who disagree with each other. And it seems like a simple enough sentence, right? Experts on both sides of the debate disagree with each other. But see, it's a holy war. I forgot that it's like abortion or gun rights or GNOME versus KDE.
Mac versus PC.
Mac versus. It's a holy war. It's a religious battle. It doesn't actually have anything to do with facts. It sure as heck doesn't have anything to do with science. It has entirely to do with faith and religion. So people have been telling me that the so-called experts on whichever side they disagree with aren't really experts, and that all the real scientists agree that whichever thing they believe in. So, message received, internet. I'm both right and wrong. Thank you. Message received.
You gotta love the literal net. It's just so much fun to poke.
and we had I didn't put it in the show because it's like a 15-second voicemail, but Gary Hart was the mouth of the South, and he wasn't blonde. The blonde guy I was thinking of, I did some trying to do some research. I couldn't come up with his name, but he was a manager that played several different manager characters. At one point, he was Paul Bearer.
Okay, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and he was dark-haired with a little Hitler mustache then. And then he was another guy who was blonde at another time, but he was a little guy. He was one of the managers. I was conflating him with Gary Hart, who was in fact a wrestler turned manager later on, who was the mouth of the South. So once again, Mark's wrongness has been corrected. Thank you, internet.
You gotta love the literal net. There you go.
So I try to keep this show based soundly in science and talk about things like bad movies and popcorn. We certainly stray off into politics and religion and all that sort of stuff, and that's fine. But it's just amazing that the one casual throwaway sentence about global warming, which didn't have anything to do with global warming, I was making the point that experts disagree, has resulted in vehement reaction from both sides of the debate.
A flood of emails has.
Yeah.
So how many of those did you end up, just auto blocking and deleting without reading?
I read all email. Well, let me rephrase that. I skim all email. I don't ever just auto block it. So if you send me something, it will get my eyes on it. How much?
At least for a half a second.
Yeah, how much attention I give it is a different thing.
Right.
As long as I brought it up, let me bring it out there so that half of the audience will hate me. I do believe global warming is a thing. I don't believe humans have a marginal effect, have a more than a marginal effect on it. There we go.
Yep. I wonder how much more email you're going to get from that one.
I'm sure that I will get plenty, but that's my stance, and I've never been afraid to back an unpopular stance. You have to be kind of silly to denounce all of the facts that the climate is gradually warming in very small increments.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. I accept that as true.
Well, I can definitely vouch for that. It's 50 degrees in February in Montana.
Yeah.
There's something wrong.
And it's all based on, you look at timelines, right, and you can pick a slice of any timeline and prove anything, right? But I accept that the Earth is gradually warming. Hence, we're no longer in an ice age. That seems to me to be fairly reasonable proof that the Earth is gradually warming. However, the things that took us out of the Ice Age were not fossil fuels. You know, man had no effect on that. Why do we suddenly have an effect today? So there's my sure to piss off many people stance.
You want me to put? Hey, Mark, do you want me to take some of that fire off you?
No, please go right ahead.
Sure,
Chris, we can't take the fire off.
That's right. It's not possible.
I'm going to try, but it can't hurt to try, right?
You could call the Pope a pimp, and nobody would notice it. I can't say anything.
Yeah, I could say the Earth has in fact cooled 50 degrees over the last 5 years, and I get a pass. So,
so go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say I currently agree with you. I think there is a global warming. I think it's a natural cycle of the Earth, but we are accelerating that cycle. So instead of what took thousands of years, it's shortening to 1,000 years.
Okay. My rebuttal to that would be that we're accelerating it in the way that an ant accelerates the downfall of a log when it's going off a cliff.
I'm just saying we're accelerating something that's natural, is my point.
Seth, you want to make people mad at you?
Man, I totally agree in climate change, but I don't agree. I don't think the man-made climate change. I think that our recorded history is far. If you accept the Earth has whatever the current age is.
Oh, we're going to go young Earth all of a sudden.
No,
the Earth is 6,000 years old, Seth. Clearly, everybody knows that.
No, but when I was in school, it was like 3 billion, and now it's up to like 6 or something like that. But so if the Earth is 6 billion years old, and we've been recording accurate weather for even say 1,000 years, then that 1,000 years is far too short. Right. The drought that's plaguing the western portion of America, is that maybe the natural habitat that we didn't understand because it had 100 years of 10 times the average amount of rainfall leading up to that? And so we don't know what the baseline is because we haven't been observing it long enough to say that we have screwed the baseline. That's my take.
I can agree with that comment as well.
All right. So I'm going to extricate us from this.
Well, no, I was going to say, even if you're a young Earth person and it's 6,000 years old, a few hundred years is not a big enough slice of 6,000 to accurately predict either. So,
okay. Wow, I'm going to go there. I'm in for a penny, in for a pound.
Do it.
In religious debates, and I'm not talking about debates of God and faith and the afterlife. That is a type of religious debate. There are many types of religious debate. Global warming is a religious debate. Abortion is a religious debate. Gun control is a religious debate. Religion being you do the same thing over and over. That's the definition of religion. It's a ritual, and people ritualistically cling to whatever they believe. Generally, it's either what they were brought up believing or the exact opposite of what they brought up believing. Rarely is it an amalgam of the two. So anyway, in ritualistic religious style debates, facts become irrelevant, and so what happens is people bring up, for example, I once saw somebody point at a box of rocks and say, in here is conclusive proof of evolution, in that we can see that this fossil goes to this fossil goes to this fossil. Well, my smart ass, there's no other way to say it, response was, no, what you have conclusive proof of is that you have rocks in a box. Everything else is conjecture. And science, what we call science, is so much conjecture. It's guesswork. Like you said, Seth, we can't even agree on how old the Earth is, because most people past the late 1800s don't even know how old their own societies were. We weren't keeping good records. And so we would talk about fossil records and all that, and you cherry pick facts, and what's the word?
It just falls down. It falls down on itself.
Yeah, confirmation bias. That's the psychological term for it. You pay attention to the things that confirm what you already believe, and it's true everywhere. And we just need to admit that there's no difference between the global warming scientist and the Catholic priest. They are educated people who have followed something that they fervently believe.
Yeah, I think either one gets to a point to where you take a leap of faith.
Exactly.
You say, I see these facts, and these facts point me to Florida. Somebody else says, I see these facts, and they point me to California. So which facts are you looking at in what order?
So, I know that I just lost a lot of people. Those that haven't turned off the show are now yelling at their podcast player device. I'm okay. I've never been had a problem with being a lightning rod. Okay, I'm going to stop digging. We could do, and maybe we should do just a whole show about what science is, because we need more. We need our culture to understand what science is. And too much of our culture, including scientists, have no idea what real science is. Okay, here I go.
Uh-oh.
All of our modern science is based on observation. It's empirical science, that which can be observed and repeatedly observed. Okay? For example, we all accept as fact that Earth's atmosphere is colorless, odorless, tasteless. Yet, nobody has ever observed anything without Earth's atmosphere being involved. We see it. We see through it all the time. Even if we're looking at photos from outer space, there's air between the lens and our eyes. No human has ever seen anything not through human atmosphere. So to make a statement that it's odorless, colorless, and tasteless simply means that we have become so inured to the smell and taste and sight of it that we don't notice it anymore. That's not true science. It's true observation, but that's not real science.
Okay.
That's
I can go with that.
My fundamental flaw with empirical science as it is. So you go to the other side, and then you have people who say that I can know things without sensing, without seeing them, without empiricism. Well, those people have faith, right? They are believers. They've chosen something. They believe in that something. And they believe that the information comes from areas outside their own senses. And we have no way of knowing who is right, because all we have are our own senses. It's like somebody who argues with a non-believer using scripture. Well, that's ridiculous, because the non-believer doesn't believe the scripture means anything. So an empiricist argues against faith using observation. Yet the person who has faith doesn't believe that observation is the essence of belief. You believe without seeing. So they will never see eye to eye, and yet they still keep trying.
Yeah. Just goes to prove that we'll never be a Star Trek organization.
Well, the most liberal scientific thinkers today believe that the cure is to get rid of faith. You get rid of faith, everybody believes in empiricism, the problems are solved. Except that they refuse to recognize that their own empiricism is faith. Faith in their own observations. The religious folks recognize and admit that they believe in things bigger and unknowable from themselves. And I find that to be the more honest approach.
It's hard to say which is right, though. Tell the honest truth, right?
Go ahead, Seth. Let it go. No, we may just dump the whole show topic.
There is a quote I recently read by C.S. Lewis, and I'm not going to do the quote justice, but the premise of it is, if you believe in an evolutionary process that we weren't created, that we just happened, then how can you trust the logic of a mind that just kind of happened to be pure, unadulterated logic? So the only way that you can believe the logic of the mind is to admit that it was created by something greater than that. It's like if you just found this computer that nobody made and just kind of turned up, nobody would trust the work that computer did, because they wouldn't know where it came from. But yet we're saying, anyway, people get the gist and they can fill in the blanks. And welcome to everyday life
Right.
and religion.
It's Gnosticism versus agnosticism, and there are different forms of Gnosticism. Gnosticism, from the Greek word gnostic, meaning to know. There are those who say you can know, and those who say you can't know. And those who say you can know, they always know. If you're a Gnostic, whether you believe in God or you believe in science or you believe in Bob the Giant Spaghetti Monster, you believe that everything can be known and that you know it. Agnostics say it can't be known, therefore I have no responsibility for trying to know it. Both are cop-outs.
And just to point out that your definition of Gnostic is not the same thing that Christians teach as the Gnostic heresy. Because otherwise the Bible thumpers are going to get onto you. I'm trying to head off those emails, at least.
Oh, no, they've already been written. They're already ready to go. They're already hitting the send button. It's too late.
I am not speaking as a representative of the Holy Roman Church or Protestantism. I'm just speaking as a guy who studied a little bit, just enough to be dangerous.
There you go.
Okay. Speaking of dangerous, how about watching all 7 seasons of a show within a couple of hours? Is that dangerous, Chris?
Well, kind of. So yesterday I found there is a limit to how much HD content you could stream through a Roku. It turns out to be about just over 11 hours of HD content.
Nobody had to pee at any point during that time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but it just played.
Okay.
It just played. We didn't. There is no pause in my house unless it's a new episode. It just plays. So yesterday we were being, it's Saturday. We were all being, I was recovering from a migraine. And the kids were all recovering from being sick. So we all just sat around and did absolutely nothing. So we turned on one of my favorite shows, Numbers. And we didn't start at the current season, of course. We just started at season 1 and hit play and didn't come up for air until 1 o'clock this morning.
Well, there isn't a current season of Numbers. It was canceled a while back, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Well, the most current,
all right,
I guess would be the better way of putting it.
Because I'm thinking, I love that show. If there's stuff I'm missing, I want to know about it.
Right. I don't remember what the last number was for the season, but we started at season 1, episode 1, and just let it go. So it was about 11 and a half hours or so, and then the last episode, the last 7 minutes, we couldn't watch because the Roku said, that's it, I've had it, I'm shutting down. And it went to a black screen with the audio still playing but no video. And if you hit any of the buttons on the Roku remote, nothing happened. Absolutely nothing. So the only way for me to turn the Roku off last night was to take the power cable out.
Did it recover?
I haven't thought enough to try it yet because I'm curious to find out if it's toast or not because it was hot to the touch. So I'm a little worried we just nuked my Roku 3, but that's okay. I have backup. We have a Chromecast sitting in there now doing the same job. So I'm curious to find out if we can melt a Chromecast now.
Yeah, I have a Dish DVR, and we noticed very shortly after we got this particular model that it would overheat. And we thought it was because we had it in a media center cabinet and whatever. It turns out it's just bad design. It just overheats.
Sure.
So that device has a USB port on it for plugging in your own media. I stuck a little laptop fan in that USB port and laid it on top, blowing air down, and it's been running for years without any problem. So
nice.
A fan might solve your problem.
It might, but I just think it's hilarious.
Or not watching TV for 11 hours might also solve your problem.
Well, but we didn't have anything to do, so
it's a good thing you don't pay by the bit in America yet.
We were talking about that last night when we turned it off because I was telling her the only other provider in my town has a data cap of 300 gigs.
Oh, you'd have blown through that the first hour.
Well, when I was looking at the meter, and before when I was doing my home business, we would have blown through that 300 gigs in about 3 days. Now we would blow through it at about day 10 of the month. So, yeah, it's a darn good thing I went with a company that doesn't have a data cap.
Well, 300 gigs even among those who do data caps, that's a small cap. I mean, that 300 gigs is very small.
Well, and that's, at least the last time I looked, that's what it was. It was just kind of nuts when they said that they upped the bandwidth to meet the provider that I'm with now, but then capped it. So It's like, well, what's the point?
Now, I know that, my mom, for example, wouldn't hit 300 gigs in her entire lifetime of usage. But my house, 5 people with multiple interface devices, all pulling from YouTube and Netflix and all these other things. Pandora. We would burn through 300 gigs really quickly.
Yeah, so
I'd be safe in my house.
Well, when we can only get 56K, it takes a while. You could actually run it for the full month and not actually be able to download 300 gigs.
Yeah, that's why I'd be safe.
Yeah, I have made my feelings known about metering before. You're measuring the wrong thing. You're capping the wrong thing. So let's move on.
If you're going to give us 50 megs, give us 50 megs, and don't worry about the capping.
Right. We've done enough pontificating for now. More on that later. Let's move on to our listener feedback. Mike asks about stacking up routers. And I misspelled stacking, and I'm so anal retentive I have to fix it, even though nobody will ever see these notes. Me's, but we's, but us. But hi guys, anyway. I have a question inspired by your recent.
Anymore this week.
They've all turned off. Hi guys, I have a question inspired by your recent chat and about Mark's old Boris box, software firewalls, and so on. I may be about to ask a very daft question, but here goes anyway. I have an old Linksys router gathering dust in a box somewhere. I've considered putting DDWRT on it, but it doesn't support modern Wi-Fi standards, so that would be a waste of time. Instead, I use the router that my ISP provided, which actually fares quite well when you look at reviews, and I enjoy good Wi-Fi throughput. Then I thought, what if I turn off the Wi-Fi on my old Linksys box and put it between my internet and my ISP's router? Would that provide me any increased level of security? I suspect it's just not worth the bother, but what are your thoughts? Keep up the great work, Mike the Brit. Chris, I'll let you take this first.
Well, the thing I'm going to say that you're going to run into a big problem with is, since you're double natting, any port forwards are going to be a mess. Doable, but still a mess. Yes, it would give you a little bit more increased security, but not enough that would be worth the double nat, in my opinion.
All right. Seth, you have any thoughts?
Well, I was going to say a lot of it would depend on how close you place the two together, because when you put wireless receivers next to each other, they kind of fight each other for the stronger signal, and they put out more voltage, causing them to be done in sooner. So if you were going to do it, you would want to, maybe string a cable to another room to have that. You gain the ability to monitor your wireless access point, whereas depending on how your provider is set up, you can't monitor what is going on and through there. So you have more control, and you definitely have more control. And if you set it up correctly, you probably have more security.
Well, remember, he did say he's going to turn off the wireless on the one device.
If you're physically turning off the radio, great. If you're just disabling the SSID, you haven't helped anything.
No, you've made more problems than anything.
So, Mike, I do very close to what you're talking about doing. I have it the other way around, though. And here's why I think it won't work the way you want to do it. You're a Brit, as you signed your message, Mike the Brit, so your mileage may vary. In the U.S., most providers' endpoints, the cable modems or the DSL modems that they give you, are hardwired to speak to their network, and won't speak through another device to their network. It won't do it. I've had a good deal of experience attempting that with various providers here in the U.S., and I've never had any success. They want to talk to their endpoints, their proprietary endpoints. Now, some places, for example, make you buy your own, right? And so they don't have those in place. But if you already have one by your cable provider, my guess is the other end of it is provisioned to only speak to your device by MAC address, most likely. And if you want to swap it out, you would have to call them and tell them that you're getting your own, in which case they'll want to take theirs back. And so, again, that's the U.S. model. I don't know if it's how it works for you. But what I do is I have my internet, my ISP's router, which comes with a Wi-Fi antenna as well. I have the Wi-Fi physically disabled. The radio is turned off. I have it in pass-through mode so that it gives my router a public IP address. And at that point, it is a bridge.
Yep.
But it is a natting
bridge mode.
Right. It is a natting bridge in that it takes all of my stuff, all of my traffic, and sends it out a single IP address. So there is a small level of increased protection there. That the same protection you would get from any endpoint, in that it hides the origination, the tunneling address. So when things go over multiple, sorry, the language centers of my brain have taken the day off. When it goes out a natting router, even if the NAT is a real address on the other side, so basically standard endpoint device stuff, it uses a series of codes called channels. They're not really channels. They're just arbitrary headers tagged onto it, and things with the same header are considered the same stream, and the router does the assembling of that, so that the other outside endpoint can't speak to specifically a device without going through the router. So that gives you some level of protection, not a lot, but some. So the way I do that is I'm just using my provider's, AT&T's router, as just a bridge. Give me a single public IP address. But I do have some controls in that device itself over, bandwidth, and I can do blacklisting. There's some extra protections that I get there. It's my first line of defense. And then my Buffalo router running DDWRT is my second line of defense, and also my wireless. Since you want to put wireless on the outside of it, I don't think that's going to work for you.
Yeah, and also if his wireless is on the cable or the provider's device and not on the internal device, he's basically doing a DMZ zone then.
Right.
And saying anything that's on the wireless can't see anything on the inside of his network.
Yeah, but that's not what he's wanting to do. What he's wanting to do
Right.
is use his device, is stack them in the reverse order that I have them. So what Chris is saying would be the ultra secure way to do it. You actually have two Wi-Fis talking with each other. You attach to one, the other one attaches only to the other Wi-Fi. Or you could even do it with cable. It doesn't have to be Wi-Fi, but that's the way you have purely. Well, if you did Wi-Fi, you could have a guest Wi-Fi that attaches directly to the internet without any protections and without any access to your network, and then your own Wi-Fi. That's the ultra secure belt and suspenders geek way to do it.
That's how I have my house, actually.
Yeah. So I come over to Chris's house, want to hook my phone up to something. He's got a public, probably unprotected Wi-Fi, or with a very weak password, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And
Easy
he
to type.
right, and he lets me on that. I get full access, and in fact, I'm on the other side of his traffic shaping, so I even get more access than what maybe one of his kids does. But I have no access to inside his network. It's the safest way to do it. It's also the most labor-intensive to set up and the most maintenance.
Right. And some of those providers don't allow you to do that. So you have to be careful of what provider you have and what their terms of service are. My provider, which is CenturyLink in the United States, they allow you to actually turn their router or their device that they ship you into a transparent bridge. There is no, once you push that button, that device is now just a hard link between their network and my router.
It's a dumb hub at that point.
Yep. Yeah. And that's all it is. And there's actually, once you do that, you can't plug anything else into the device. It pretty much makes it completely blank.
Yeah, I did that with CenturyLink using one of their routers when I had my Boris box. So I know exactly what you're talking about. It works. It works well. With AT&T, I have a little better in that I still get the bridge, but I get some control on the bridge side,
Okay.
which I think is really cool. It's minimal control because I'm not identifying specific traffic there, but I can stop the first level of stuff. So Mike,
Sure.
the way you want to do it, I don't think will work, at least with an American provider wouldn't work. But there are ways to do what you want to do and provide yourself that double layer of security. But in the end, I think your final sentence is right. It's not worth the bother. I do it because I'm a geek and I enjoy the process. That was a day I spent doing that, and it was relaxing and fun to me. Do I get a great benefit from it? Probably not. It was just something I did one day.
Mm-hmm. That's how I did mine, and that was the reason I did mine that way. Actually, eventually, I'm going to take one of the routers out of the equation and just set up a red interface on my pfSense box and just do it all through pfSense.
Right, and I've done that too, and it works fine.
Yep, and my friends, they enjoy it because they can come in, they can jump on the network, and they can get without any issues. And I don't have to worry about them slurping down my Plex data. Yeah. Anything coming out of my servers that I have here.
With my Buffalo router running DDWRT, I actually have the ability to fire up a second SSID.
Mm-hmm.
Using, like, I can have one using 5 gigahertz and one using 2.4 gigahertz, and actually physically separate the waves that way.
Yep.
And so that's a $199-ish device, way more expensive than the $30 D-Link that you probably bought at your local electronics store. But again, I didn't buy it because I needed the functionality. I bought it because it was a fun project for me. That didn't come out of computer household money. It came out of hobby money. So you got to understand why you're doing these things. Do I think it gives me a great bit of benefit of security? No, not at all. But it was a fun thing to do.
Yeah, and like a couple of weeks ago when I said I started playing with setting up my snort alerts, it was just because I wanted to set it up.
Once you flip that switch, everything is an alert. Oh my gosh, terrorists are trying to kill you! Oh, it turns out that's just web traffic. Let's turn that off.
It's actually kind of fun though to see all the alerts that comes in, because I have mine where it doesn't do anything other than log.
Right.
So I'm just generating a log file, but it's interesting to see how many port scans hit me in a day, just because it's not very helpful because I can't do anything about it, but it's kind of entertaining. Just look down and go, wow, that's a lot of port scans.
Right.
Or weird back. I don't know. I haven't really done the investigation to find out what these particular. I have a couple of scans that are coming through that are using like some weird ARP traffic, and I'm like, I wonder what that is, and why is it on port 38,000 or 50,000? So, yeah.
I found something in my house just yesterday actually, that's using IPv6 tunneling over IPv4.
Wow.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what device I have that's doing that. I need to track it down and try to figure out what that is, because that's kind of cool. There's a protocol where you encapsulate IPv6 traffic inside IPv4. So my provider doesn't provide me IPv6. So apparently this, whatever it is communicating via IP6 through, or at least did at one point and it got logged, via IP6 out on the internet using IP6 locally, but through an IP4 tunnel. And I was just scanning through the logs and I saw that and went, oh, I gotta go back to that and see what that was, because that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
My guess is it's the Plex server.
Oh, could be.
Yeah. Because it's running on a Windows 7 box that has an IPv6 stack on it. And my guess is communicating with Plex on IP6.
That would make sense.
Wow, that went super geeky right there.
Well, that's what we do, though.
That's right. And Seth has actually gotten up and gone off to have a snack while we're talking.
I'm sorry, did you say something?
Hey, welcome back, Seth.
Nice.
So
next, a snack.
Next, we have a rather convoluted and disjointed email from a fellow who calls himself Lukeward Cookie. And Lukeward, I teased out a single question that I thought was worthwhile. And so here's his heavily excerpted email. It says, I've listened to the EDL archives from number 1 through number 107.
I'm sorry.
That must have been
we're
unpleasant.
sorry.
Yes.
That would have been painful, I'm sure.
So he went back to April 5th, 2011, episode 1.
Have we really been doing this that long?
Yes, we have.
Wow.
We're coming up on 4 years. And we haven't gotten any better at it. He says, I've not listened yet to any other podcasts on the network. Right now, it's the only one currently in production, but there are several others out there. Or moved past episode 173. He wrote this when 173 was the current episode, except for a few minutes here and there. I plan to do both of these things at some time. On a personal note, sometime in 2015, I will apply some conditions to my personal media and information libraries. Those conditions will be based on content creators. I want no more than 20% of my total library to be from non-Christian sources. This means I'll be entertained and informed, at least by 70%, by content from a worldview that I want to see more of. I would like to know, for EDL particularly, should I put Mark, Chris, and Seth under the 75% Christian-produced content or 25% non-Christian produced content? Luke, that's by far a unique question. And I suspect as you continue to listen, you will find the answers to those, because we're fairly open about what we believe. But it may be another several weeks before you get so far up that you're actually listening to this one. But I thought it was an interesting question and one that I'll answer. First off, thanks for not calling it a Christian podcast, because this podcast has never accepted Jesus into its heart. And I hate it when people call it Christian music or Christian books. Only a human can be a Christian. I myself am a professing follower of Jesus Christ, and therefore you could put me down as someone who is producing content that is produced by someone who shares your worldview. I try not to make this show heavy-handed in terms of my faith, but I don't hide from it either. So, guys, I'll let you answer that question in your own way.
I'll let Seth go first.
Okay. Well, I also am a Christian, and I don't put it as eloquently as Mark, but yeah, I don't really believe that, books, movies, or media can be saved. But, I try, I don't try to convert people or lobby for my faith here, although I mention it from time to time. I just try to talk about Linux and technology and silliness in life in general. So that's me. I don't know, so is it Christian produced? Yes. Is this like Christian worldview base? I don't know. I wouldn't say that we would be anti-Christian base, but we don't really strive to make a point in the religious discussions of the world.
All right, Chris.
Very elegant, Seth. I myself am a Catholic-based, so you can say you pick your way on your belief on that one.
You're going straight to hell. Jesus said
right.
so.
I'm done. It's over. I'm driving the bus. Who's getting on? But I personally practice being a Catholic, Catholicism, if you would say. But I also practice a little bit more along the lines of a Taoist or the Golden Rule type person. So do unto others as you want done unto yourself is my number one rule in my house. So it may not be 100% Catholic, but it's more the right way in my opinion.
There you go. As I said, we've never shied away from, and we've made statements to this effect in the past, but nobody's ever asked the question so bluntly, so we've never answered it so bluntly either. I am a right-wing, ultra-conservative, gun-toting, actually I don't own a gun, Protestant Baptist. I'm actually ordained as a deacon in the Baptist Church, a licensed minister in the Baptist Church. So I've performed weddings, and I do the sacraments. That is a part of my life. This show is a part of my life. I don't see that the two are mutually exclusive, nor are they necessarily, does one have to inform the other. I don't believe that it's okay for people who are believers to do things that don't necessarily reflect directly on what they believe. I've been told, and I've heard other people told, that if you're a Christian, everything you do should point people to Christ. that's a fine mindset, but one I don't happen to agree with. It's okay to just enjoy something that isn't Christian, specifically, that isn't Christ-centered. I enjoy the Avengers movies. Pretty sure Christ is only mentioned in there as an insult or as a swear, if he's mentioned at all. That doesn't make it distasteful, in my opinion. I had a conversation with a cousin of mine years ago. I had some Metallica in my CD collection, and she saw it, and she's one of those who believes that. Well, I'll tell you as the story goes on. She said, "Why do you have this here?" I said, "Because it's good music." And she said, "That's reason enough for you?" Yeah, actually, that's entirely reason enough for me. And she said, "Well, I believe that music was created to worship God, and any music that doesn't do that is not appropriate and shouldn't exist." So you've never sang "Wheels on the Bus Go Round and Round" to your kid? What about "Happy Birthday"? Those songs don't worship Jesus. Are you going to apply things? You can't cherry pick. You can't say you believe this, but only as it relates to Metallica and not as it relates to Pop Goes the Weasel. You got to pick one. I believe that you test everything and keep that which is good. Plain and simple.
Yeah. Which is why I always fall back in my beliefs, in my teaching to my kids, that the golden rule is probably the best rule of all. Because that way, unless you want to be whatevered, you won't do it to whoever.
And Lucward, I appreciate your choice that you've made. You want to be surrounded by people who share your worldview. I accept that, and I respect that. I don't agree with it. I think that some of the best ways to cement your own faith is to go toe-to-toe with people who don't share it.
Yeah. Well, and also, I wish it would. If you ever seen the movie Chariots of Fire, it's kind of a good film. Eric Liddell in there makes the statement, God created me to run fast, and when I run, I basically feel closer to God. So, he's running down the road. He's not, stopping to pass out tracks. He's doing something he enjoys, and he's doing it with his whole heart. And he's not like, doing something antagonistic towards God with his whole heart. So, I put my effort into this podcast, and, hopefully people will go, he sounds like a good guy. I wonder what it is about him. And then that would give me a platform later, maybe. But if all I ever do is, you're going to go to hell, here's this track, read this book to find out 3 secrets to prosperity, did you tithe at church this week? If I do all that, nobody's going to listen to anything I have to say. So, anyway.
Definitely an atypical show.
Definitely an atypical show. Is this what you were thinking when you titled it, That's How We Roll?
I wasn't, actually, but it works, doesn't it?
Definitely. It really does.
It's the next question that garnered the title, That's How We Roll. Travis asks what applications we use. He said, I had an idea for future shows. What if you guys came up with a list of Linux applications that you use, the best app for X, and then maybe geek out for a minute on the ins and outs of that app and how to really get it to sync. This would help me and some of the noobs to get Linux a good foot in the door on the everyday things that we want to do, but don't know what's the best app for the job. These topics could span from firewalls to DVD rippers, and would be very in tune with the everyday Linux user theme. Anyway, just a thought. Keep up the good show. I look forward to each one. Sincerely, Travis. So as soon as I read this, I thought, well, Travis, we've done that. You must be a new listener to the show. You didn't know that. We've done that. So then I thought, well, when did we do that? It turns out we did that on January 22nd, 2012, episode 36. Maybe it's okay to go back and revisit that again.
Yeah, I would think that we could probably go back and revisit that.
Yeah, so instead of Travis saying, go listen to episode 36, we're gonna do it again because some of those answers have likely changed since then. So that's the idea. That's how we roll. But it turns out this show is about us as individuals and opening our hearts to you as well as our hard drives. I hope that's okay with you because it's what we're doing. So we'll go straight to there. And I compiled a list of the stuff I use every day. Not all of this is desktop. Not all of this is end user oriented. Some of it's server oriented. But this is the stuff I use. But before I go down my list and then turn it over to Chris, who says, yeah, pretty much everything you just said, I'm going to let Chris start, and then we'll fill in the blanks. So, Chris,
All right,
tell us what you use on a regular basis.
Well, on a day-to-day basis, I would have to say Firefox and Chrome. That's every morning guaranteed.
You use both.
Because
Is there a reason you use one over the other?
It depends on what I'm going for. Because for some reason, and I'm thinking it's just my canary in the coal mine activity feeling, I usually end up with Chrome being overloaded with plugins, and so it's really slow and boggy, but it has a lot of my features for my casual browsing needs. If I'm just out there kind of, using Stumble to stumble through different websites, or, just casual browsing. Now, if I'm doing something with a purpose, and I want to make sure that my machine is going to be 100% as not safe from the internet, but as protected as I possibly be, because maybe I'm going down a road investigating a friend's infection. I'll load up Firefox with all the security plugins tied in. NoScript, FlashBlock, everything is tied down as tight as I can get Firefox to be. And it's different tool for a different task, at least for Firefox and Chrome.
All right.
Does that make sense?
So, by the way, I just realized that I left out a listener email or voicemail, but we'll come back to it next week because we've already gone so far. So anyway, continue on your list of things you use, not necessarily daily, but frequently.
Sure. The next thing I would possibly use during the day, or as a regular thing that I open up, it would definitely have to be any of the Office suites, be it Google's Office suite or LibreOffice suite. Either one of those would be high on the list, depending on what it's for. Because if it's local material,
you said okay Google, didn't you?
Yes, I did, and I'm trying to cancel it, and I finally got it to cancel.
Because it made my watch go too.
But that's one thing I use a lot of, actually, is Google Now. I use that thing every day. But so LibreOffice or Google Docs, depending on what it is. If it's something complicated, like if I'm working on my personal budget or things of that sort, it's usually all in LibreOffice because the more delicate formulas, they don't seem to translate well to Google Docs, at least not lately. I haven't tried it recently with the new update, so I'm going to go back and revisit that. But I use a lot of Google Keep since they added the ability to share notes with other people. I've been using Google Keep immensely with my wife and my son, and just about everyone else. I get to use Google Keep because it's on all of our phones. And then definitely, I'm not so much into VLC anymore because I haven't been watching much media on my actual PC, but that is my go-to media viewer on the computer. Definitely VirtualBox and Plex and what else? pfSense is another one that I use a lot of.
So let's go through. Some of those are pretty obvious, right? Google Keep, that's an Android app. It's not a Linux app, but it's a note keeping. Right. It's similar to Evernote or something like that.
Yep.
VLC you mentioned is media. Plex we talk about all the time, but not everybody knows what pfSense is.
Okay, well, pfSense is my router / firewall.
Your Boris box.
It's my Boris box. I have all sorts of things plugged into that when it comes to security, logging, bandwidth shaping. Pretty much anything you would do through a router is done through that PF box, which, when it comes to anything with your network, that's the first place that needs to be. And it's currently running on a dual-core Pentium 4 with 8 gigs of RAM because I could.
Because you had it laying around.
Yeah, I just had an extra. Well, it was my daughter's old machine that had a bad hard drive, and since then my daughter and my son now share a machine because she didn't want to wait for me to rebuild it. So now I just took that and made it the Plex box, and Currently, I'm looking at changing my file server because I'm currently running Unraid as my in-house file server. But I have to get spousal approval to buy my file server that I want to get because I'm tired of managing it. But Unraid is a great file server if you need one. It does a good job of pretty much every protocol. It runs ultra light. I think it's running on an old P3 machine with a whole bunch of hard drive stuffed in it. Let's see. There's DDWRT on my access point. A lot of Google apps and a lot of Android apps now that I'm starting to burn through my tablets and my phones.
All right.
I can't think of anything else. Let's see. Well, obviously Audacity for our recordings, XChat for chatting, Handbrake for encoding, Steam, TeamViewer for remote support for my friends and family, but that's not Linux exclusive.
Right, that's what I was going to say. A lot of these things are cross-platform, and you'll find that they're, you want to say what is the best thing for X in Linux. Often the answer is the same thing as it is for Windows and Mac.
Right, because a lot of times those guys, well, because there's so many more people that can, cross-platform develop on the same tool. I kind of wish that TeamViewer would have a better Linux version, because currently their Linux version is just a wine wrappered version of TeamViewer, which kind of annoys me, but it works, so I'm not going to complain too loudly. And then, of course, you have your file synchronizing programs, Dropbox, Copy. Those are my two file synchronizing programs. Geez, I don't know. That pretty much covers everything. Google Voice for when I want to give people a phone number that isn't my phone number but still rings me. Because you have those forms that you don't really want to give them personal information, so you have throwaway emails and throwaway phone numbers. God, I don't know what else to even bring up.
I often when people, we've talked about this a number of times. When you list the things that you use every day, more and more the list includes websites and web apps rather than physical apps, because that's the way the world is going.
Right.
So
it's going less machine driven and more cloud driven.
Right. Ecosystem driven. Seth, do you have anything that you want to say? You don't use Linux every day like the rest of us, but I'm sure you have some stuff.
Yeah, I don't really have anything that's not on y'all's list because I don't really do much heavy lifting on computers unless I'm fixing them for someone else. But the one point I wanted to make about using multiple browsers, it's really, I use it most effectively because, like, I have a Google, I have two different Google accounts. So rather than try to, remember which one is in which tab or anything, I just know that this Google account I only access in Firefox, and this Google account I only access in Chrome. And same thing with my Yahoo email addresses. I have multiple ones of those. If I'm in this browser, I know it's this Yahoo account. If I'm in this other browser, I know it's this Yahoo account. So that's a very easy way that I use to differentiate, which identity I'm accessing a site as. So, and that makes a difference, especially with Google, because I have different docs under my different Google accounts.
Right.
So, if I want to access, this document, I need to go to Chrome because that's the one it is. And some of them are shared between users, and then some of them aren't, just because I haven't taken the time to share them yet. But that's really the main reason that I use multiple browsers on a regular basis.
Okay. Any particular Linux apps you want to mention?
No, I mean, I love VLC. I prefer LibreOffice over OpenOffice, more of a preference thing for me. Audio Mux, I believe, was what I used for my podcatcher when I was running my Linux distro all the time. But otherwise, it's VLC to play the media that I have on my flash drive, or if I want to listen to a CD or watch a movie, or I'm just accessing websites.
Okay. And my list, in no particular order, I use both Firefox and Chrome. Chrome for the googly stuff, for Gmail, and for Google Docs, pretty much exclusively, because it seems to work better. Firefox is my daily driver. Firefox is where I do my Facebook and my Google Plus and my general Amazon searches and the editing the website. That's the thing that I like most because of its extensibility, right? Chris mentioned the plugins. Originally, Firefox was the guy that could do plugins, and so that they got me early on. Chrome came later with plugins, but I was already entrenched in Firefox. And I already had it configured the way I wanted. I've said before, I was using Firefox back when it was called Firebird. It was pre-released, and it was a single zipped file that you ran off of your desktop or wherever you wanted to put it. I've been in this.
Loved it back then.
Yeah, I've been in this ecosystem a very long time. Chrome I like. Firefox is home, but I use them both every day.
Personally, I'm starting to move back to Firefox over Chrome as my daily driver.
I do IE at work because I have to.
Me too.
And I keep a Chrome portable and a Firefox portable on my pen drive for work stuff when I don't want to use a crappy browser. Handbrake is something I use regularly. It's the tool that I use for ripping DVDs and for converting media files in general. Pigeon, and again, Chrome, Firefox, both cross-platform. Handbrake, cross-platform. You can get it anywhere. Pigeon, you can get it anywhere. Pigeon is the instant messaging app that I use and have used it on Windows and on Linux. Pretty sure there's a Mac version, and it works across. Like right now, I am logged into the Element OP chat room using Pigeon. I also have contact using Zamp on other servers. I have my Google Talk. You can plug in a Facebook chat. I'm not on Facebook that much, but I like things that can do everything in one place. So Pigeon it is, Pidgin.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
I want to say I really, back when I was managing multiple instant messenger clients, Pigeon was my go-to as well. I would still pull IRC out of it though and use an actual IRC exclusive app for that. But I would have, I think I eventually at one time had up to 9 different accounts in Pigeon's library, and they just fell off. I just don't use them anymore. So.
I've had a Yahoo Messenger account since it was called Yahoo Pager. Go back to like 1995 or 6. Still log into that account every day. I have a Skype plugin for Pigeon so that I can text chat using Skype, the most inefficient text chat thing in the world, but I have friends and family who only want to use that. So instead of being resistant, I can just throw it into Pigeon. I've got a cousin who only uses AOL Instant Messenger. God bless her. But because I want to chat with my cousin, I fire that up, and I've had an account there since the 90s. So Pigeon, Swiss Army knife of messaging.
Yes, and a great tool.
Right. Next,
are you using any of the security plugins, off the record and stuff like that?
No, I don't say anything that's that important. I'm pretty sure I've never sent a credit card number over instant message. That's for SMS. Obviously, send that over the waves that way. That was a
there
joke.
You go.
Don't do that. I was kidding.
Ever, never, ever.
As Chris has already mentioned, Wine for those things that just have to work in Windows and you can only get the Windows version. Wine is standard in my toolkit. I find myself using it less and less, but I still do need to run Windows stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
Excuse me. GIMP. My favorite photo editor and has been forever. It is way overkill for removing red eye and adjusting things. And if you just want to apply an Instagram-like filter, There are lots of other Google Photos does a great job of that as part of Google Plus.
Mm-hmm.
There are other tools. F-Spot, I think, comes in default on Ubuntu-based distributions, but it's easy to find if otherwise. But I've done photo editing for years as a hobby, and just not just retouch, but hardcore photo editing. I use GIMP for that. Libra/OpenOffice. I was a big OpenOffice fan. Son kind of went a little nut job with OpenOffice, and I jumped ship to LibreOffice. Son has since relinquished everything OpenOffice related, brands and code and everything, to Apache. And Apache's doing a fine job, but here's why I choose LibreOffice over OpenOffice. The Apache license won't let them incorporate things using another license. The Apache license is actually one of the most free open source licenses. Do what you want with it. Business, we don't care. Personal, we don't care. Resell it, we don't care. The Apache license is great for that. LibreOffice is a different, I think it's GPL3. I'm not sure.
That sounds about right.
But it allows for you to use other code as long as you attribute that code and provide a source code link to it. So anything that OpenOffice does that's innovative, LibreOffice can just suck it in without asking. OpenOffice can't do the same thing. So any enhancements or advances that the LibreOffice team does, the Apache team, the OpenOffice team have to recreate if they want to use it. They can't just suck the code in. So that's why right now LibreOffice is the front runner, but I'm still an OpenOffice fan. VLC, we talked about Videoland client, Swiss Army knife of video. There's very little it won't play. VNC, that's been around forever. AT&T Labs created this tool similar to PC Anywhere, back when PC Anywhere was the market dominant remote support app, and they said, we own engineers, why should we pay for that? So they built VLC, they released it to the web. I've been using it for decades. Audacity, every show we do is edited and recorded on Audacity when it doesn't crash. I'm being honest, Audacity. VirtualBox and VMware, I use both of those for virtual machines. DDWRT, that is right now the firewall software that I'm running. I mentioned it several times. It is a custom hack of the original Linksys firmware, but it runs on lots of different stuff now. It's solid. It's geeky. It's not simple. If you want simple, Smoothwall is there. Smoothwall is great. It's easy. They have free stuff, but you can also pay for advanced plugins that are super easy, like their content filter, Smooth Guardian. Awesome. I used it at the school where I was employed. I used it at home. It's a good one. XBMC is my primary media player. Plex is my primary media server. I use XBMC as a client to Plex because I like the XBMC interface better than the Plex interface by like 0.5%. But since I can have that 0.5%, why shouldn't I? And then I'm an Apache MySQL guy. Anytime I'm going to fire up a web server, plain old LAMP stack, Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. I started coding in PHP many years ago. Still hand code a lot of web pages because I'm stupid. There's so many good code generators out there today that now can actually produce clean code. It wasn't the case for so long. It used to be that you could not read the code produced by a Dreamweaver or something else like that. You had to use a tool to read it. And I would open up Notepad and start typing. That's the way I coded most web pages for a long time. But now, all sorts of plugins actually write really clean code. My Drupal site, uses FCK editor, I think it is. Makes nice clean code that is actually editable and usable. But I still crack out the old PHP sometimes. And that's my inexhaustive list, but just the stuff that came to me that I use every day. But as you'll see there, the top of the list is web stuff, Firefox and Chrome, because most of my world, more and more, is becoming over the web, and I think that's true for everybody.
Well, especially since you can put so much on your phone nowadays.
Right.
It's ridiculous on how much power we have packing in our pockets. It just blows most people's mind. Any of the geeks that actually think about it for half a second, they're like, my HTC M8. That's a quad-core processor.
Right.
In my pocket.
Yeah,
Why not use it?
You're reaching out into space and grabbing your music off of a server out there somewhere and playing it through your earbuds in real time because you can.
Exactly.
Right.
And the earbuds are wireless too. You know, I have a decent pair of Bluetooth stereo headphones. So why not use it if it's there?
Seth, you may remember this. I invented Pandora like in 1991. You and I were taking a road trip somewhere, and we were out in the middle of nowhere, and we couldn't get any radio signal. And I said, you know, we have these cell phones now, these newfangled cell phones. What somebody should do is create a service that transmits your music, your personalized music, over cell phone bands. You have a cell phone receiver in your car, and everywhere you go, as long as you're in range of a cell tower, you have your collection of music. I invented Spotify and Pandora way back then. Turns out the internet was the way to do it, but it still comes over cell towers for the most part. When I'm driving down the road streaming it through my car, I'm doing it over cell towers. So I should have patented that thing.
I think we were actually going to visit Marie one day.
Yeah, that sounds right.
That was the trip. So, wow, that was a long time
I just
ago.
wish cell band. You know, personally, I wish cell bandwidth was cheaper, because then I'd have even more stuff that would be on my phone and not. But up here in BFE, it's super pricey.
And there's no technical reason for it not to be cheaper. It's expensive because you'll pay it.
Yep. And there's no other choice.
All right, so we have pontificated long and hard this show, leaving us very little room for any news. But we will do a couple of links. Maybe Seth pick like 3. And while you're picking those, I will tell you about our wonderful friends over at linuxacademy.com who make this show possible. Not really. We would do it without them. We did do it before them. But they're our friends. We like them, and you should too. linuxacademy.com is your place to learn how to become a Linux guy. Even, you know, their stated goal is to take you from being a beginner to a Linux administrator, but they've branched out beyond that now. They've recognized, like Travis, who started this whole thread off, that there are a whole bunch of people out there who are not really looking to be administrators. They just want to use this Linux thing, and they need some education. So they have a whole strand of courses now designed at being a beginning Linux user. But they have that. Of course, they have the server stuff. They'll prepare you for certifications. They have coding stuff now. They've just started a Ruby on Linux course in the last couple of weeks. They also have the Amazon Web stuff. There's so much out there. It's not just Linux Academy anymore, but hey, that's their name. They're going to stick with it. It's Linux Academy Plus these days. High quality videos. Step-by-step study guides offered in a PDF format. If you're one of those guys who likes to print things out and hold a piece of dead tree in your hand, you can do that. And you can annotate on those and do what you need to do while you're watching the video. And then when you think you've got it, you've read about it, you've watched it done, you want to do it yourself, you hop on over to their Linux web server platform, their labs platform, that's the word I was looking for, where you can fire up to 4 different machines. You can choose from 8 different Linux distributions, but you can have 4 of them running at once in Amazon's cloud service, so they're lightning fast and almost instant. If you break something, you can rebuild it with literally the click of a mouse. And you get these 4 machines that can interact with each other in their own way. They can even interact with the real world, so they can reach out of that lab environment in a safe way. And so you have the opportunity to put everything into practice. So you can see it done, you can read how it's done, and you can do it yourself. And you can listen. I guess you can close your eyes and just listen to the videos. They have all the ways that people learn covered. Hundreds of videos at this point. And when you're done, when you've watched the videos and you've experienced it, they got practice quizzes. They got the quizzes that'll make sure that you really know what you think you know. And then when you're ready to say you go on for your certification, they have practice certification exams. And without exception, people who have passed the practice exam have been ready to pass the real exam. And in fact, the CompTIA and Linux Plus guys agree with them. The LPI, Linux Professional Institute, say that their content is so good that you can actually apply for certification right from the Linux Academy website. They've built that in there. They have certified these people as high quality content. And how much you're going to pay for this? They're going to really stick it to you. I'm sorry that I really wanted to be generous with these people, but their price is a whopping $25 a month. So less than the cost of a gourmet pizza. You can get all of this education for a month. But if you want to buy more than a month, I recommend you drop out, you throw down your $25. Try it for a month. You don't like it, you haven't lost a whole lot. You do like it, and you're probably going to. If you're serious about learning, you're going to like what they have to offer there. Buy a quarter the next time. That's 3 months. That's only $65. So now you're paying just a little over $20 a month. If you're really serious about it, buy a year, $215, which breaks down to just under $18 a month. It's bargain basement prices for gourmet quality content at less than $18 a month. When you go, use the link linuxacademy.com/everydaylinux, and you'll get a special price break. And those prices are in flux, so I'm not going to say what they are, but you pay less if you use our link. Plain and simple. linuxacademy.com/everydaylinux. Let them know that we sent you. So that's all I have to say about that. Seth, what news topics do we want to discuss this week?
Okay, well, we'll go in order on the ones I rearranged them there.
Okay.
So the first one, we talk a lot about DRM here, and I just don't, and I understand the reason for DRM. I think when you DRM a coffee pot, you probably went too far. And so some people and you can go to YouTube and look Keurig like coffee hacks or whatever, and it's one of the most things. And basically, the public has rejected the 2.0 thing. Their sales have tanked. But this company has come out with, they call it a Freedom Clip. You can put it on the bottom to cover the port, and they don't charge for it. You just have to go to their website and request a clip, or you can buy a package of their generic brands and they throw the clip in there for free.
You don't have to buy their coffee though. You get the clip just because they want to stick it to the man, and I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I just talking about the Freedom Clip and the link on where to get one, that will be in the show notes as well. Again, I love Keurig. I bought one for the staff at my church, and I occasionally they seem to love Starbucks Sumatra, so I pay for those when I go by Starbucks sometimes. But I refuse to buy any of the Green Mountain since I heard about the 2.0 thing coming out. So they lost my money. Ooh, I'm gonna put them out of business. But
So Green Mountain is produced by Keurig? I didn't know that.
Yes, that's their brand. So. But yeah, so that's just, if you like the Keurig, but the whole DRM thing, you're against that, here's kind of a way to stick it to them, and you can go back to using the generic cups, and, that don't have – and plus the whole reason they said when they were initially developing it, they were using anti-counterfeiting technology, but the corporate spin is to help maintain a proper brewing temperature by reading the cup.
Right.
So it's a load of crap.
Yeah.
And I again, if DRM is the way you want to go, I think DRMing a coffee pot is a bit too much. But the whole reason they did it is their patents were running out, and they were afraid that the generics would cut too deeply into their profit margin. That's my editorialized comment on them. No way a statement of fact.
So I had a transition and I forgot what it was. Raspberry Pi 2 has come out. I was super excited about this. Went to buy one and they were sold out in 9 seconds.
Go figure.
Yes, they weren't supposed to come out till 2017, but they decided to come out just a wee bit early, and they're keeping the price the same. You get up to 1 gig of RAM, and you have a quad-core processor. And Microsoft is even going to have a version of Windows 10 that runs on it.
Yeah.
So
it's a quad-core processor, but a faster. The original was a 700 megahertz single-core processor. This is 6 gigahertz cores. So 4 gigahertz cores for an over 600% performance improvement, plus twice as much RAM at the same price. That's the amazing thing.
It just goes to show that things are getting so cheap nowadays. You know, the tech is so easy to build anymore that there's no reason for a high cost on some of this stuff.
I'm on the let me know when this comes back into stock list because I want one of those. Because the Raspberry Pi, as awesome as it is, just can't handle some of the number crunching stuff that I want to do. Like, for example, this quad-core gigahertz processor would probably be a good Plex server, not just a client anymore. Because with that, it would have the processing power to transcode live at that point. So I really want one of these, and at $35. I mean, if you've already got like a case and all the peripherals and everything, you're literally just dropping in a new board, and you'll need an increased power supply because it requires 1.5 amps over one instead of 1 amp. But done for $50 or less. I really want one. I will have one. It's just a matter of when.
It will be mine.
Yes.
I shall own you, and you will be mine.
Not today, good man. I'm going to buy it. Do you take cash? Wayne's World. Just watched it recently. Crunchbang. It's going away?
Apparently, this is from phosphorus.com, and I just found this out today. I came across this story. The lead developer, Philip Newborough, he released a statement that says, I have decided to stop developing Crunchbang, and then he goes on and kind of talks about it. So, again, it doesn't necessarily mean that Crunchbang is dead, but the lead developer, who pretty much the only reason there's a Crunchbang is because of him, he's moving on with his life. So again, and I don't mean that like, ew, computers are gross. It just means he's ready to do something else, and so he is leaving the development of Crunchbang behind. So, I don't know. Is that better or worse? There's a chance that because he's gone, the community will pick up and it will go on to be better than ever, and it will be the one distribution to rule them all. But that probably won't happen. It's probably going to be the end of Crunchbang, and if that's the case, then that adds more developing talent into the pool of the other distros. Hopefully, they won't fork it into 4 different versions of Crunchbang that just turn them all into garbage. That's my fear.
That particular thread is at page 11 at the time of recording. So I'm curious to see. I'm not going to read the whole thread just to see what's going on, but man, that's a lot of comments and interestingness to it.
That's what we've said many times about the part of the forking and the rampancy of Linux distributions. You want to change a wallpaper, call it a new distro. The problem is many of them are maintained by 1 or 2 people. Mm-hmm. And so they come and you love them. They become awesome, integral parts of your. I just used the word awesome. Now I'm sensitive to it now.
Everything is awesome.
They become integral parts of your work life, and then they go away because that one guy doesn't want to be trapped doing the college project he started 12 years ago. And that's he has that right, but it's frustrating at the same time, and that's where sometimes having a big company behind you is a good thing, a la Android that has shipped over 1 billion units. Because it has a bunch of companies behind it and not just one guy.
Oh, you.
I added, yeah.
Yeah, I had put that down at the bottom. Hold on. Yeah. So, wow, you threw me for a loop there. I was all queued up on the other one. But yes, so Android they shipped in this last quarter 1 billion with a B. And everybody wants to talk about how Android's about to die because Google might lose control or it'll be forked to death and the empire will come crashing down. But 1 freaking billion units. That's a lot of units shipped. I mean, so basically, what's the population? 6.5 billion. So more. That's 1 out of every 7 people. So you're talking
18% of the market. 18% of the population.
Yeah, and that's just shipped this quarter. That's not all the people who had stuff last quarter. You're talking still it's a minority of the world population, but a significant portion is going to have Android because it's cheap and it's out there.
One out of every 7 people on the planet bought an Android device between October and December 2014.
That's amazing.
That's a lot of people.
Wow.
But, yeah, Facebook would love those numbers.
Yeah.
And there's lots of permutations of that, right? There's a cyanogen mod and the new oxygen
they're not
OS
counting.
Right, but they're all Android, right?
Yeah. Well, no, not cyanogen. That's like a separate thing. Apple and Amazon, the Fire, that's a separate thing. So
they're not counting those as Android sales.
No, that's not Android. Okay. So that's a lot.
So it's way more if you figure in all the things that are based on Android.
Yeah, you have the derivatives.
Yeah, because again, Amazon, the Fire TV is Android at its core. The Android, the Fire tablets, Android. All those OnePlus Ones, they sold over 1 million units. They're based on Android. So big numbers off. And what is that? Is that the power of free? That's why I wanted to do this one, not just because it's about numbers, but why is it? Why is Android so much better in terms of sales than Apple? And I have to think that that's the power of free. Free as in no cost, but also free as in you can do stuff with it if you want to. And right. Oftentimes that is, kind of poo-pooed. People don't want to admit that. When we talk about open source, people say it's no cost is way more important than the ability to modify it. I think Android is proving us wrong in that. Now, the reason the Linux desktop isn't winning is because the Linux desktop was already well formed, or the desktop was already well formed before Linux ever came to prominence, and it's not really became well known. Android was right there at the beginning. Apple started it. Android very quickly came along after with something that was almost as good, and then as good, and now in some cases better, at no cost. Not only no cost, but with the ability to make your own changes.
I think we would have to be honest and say the first Android that came out was crap by the current standards of the day. But they caught up fast.
Right.
So they released an inferior product and then developed the heck out of it.
The G1 in 2008 was almost as good as the iPhone of 2007, but there was already a new iPhone in the works at that point.
Right, but there had already been a few versions of Android before that came out.
Right. Okay. So, but yeah, they started late to the game, but early late. They were slow getting out of the blocks. Microsoft didn't get started until the other runners had already finished their first lap. Right. So that's why they, even with the billions they have to come to bear, are an also ran in the smartphone market. But I really think that Android shows us the power of free. People like to talk about how Google can be dictatorial about whether you get to use Google Apps, and they will say that the power of Android is Google Apps. That is certainly a big part of it, but this is showing us that's not the case. So there's no way that all billion of those were Google Apps certified devices.
Right. I would not agree. I would not disagree with that statement. But they're out there, and if you think about it, the iPhone is expensive in America. It's not necessarily out of the reach expensive, but it's expensive in America, and America is wealthy compared to the rest of the world. So imagine it to the rest of the world. It's darn near out of reach, except everyone but the elites in society. Whereas Android is just, you can buy it on a $5 tablet out of China if you want to wait a week. And so it's out there, and you can get it in mass, and the components are so cheap that when something breaks, you just buy a new tablet rather than try to fix it. So that's the power of free. And so people have access who wouldn't have access if it came down, if Apple wasn't, or if Android wasn't in the market.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't want to skip over that one, because yes, it's impressive numbers, but it bears some thinking about why. So
Okay.
moving on now, Seth, what happened this week in computer history?
Okay, this was something cool I read about today. February the 8th, 1996, 24 hours in cyberspace took place. It's the largest one-day online event ever as of that date.
As of that date. Yeah.
Yes, as of that date. The project brought together the world's top photographers, editors, programmers, and interactive designers to create a digital capsule of online life in real time. So there was a website.
I feel it incumbent to point out there wasn't a lot of digital online life in 1996 as compared to today.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. Like, I think 96 was the year Yahoo started. So there really wasn't. And, I mean, there was an internet, but you wouldn't think of it as you would today. It was more bulletin boards and stuff. But this was just a neat thing. There was, like, Vice President at the time, Al Gore, he contributed an essay. Tipper Gore was there, some famous, well-known people, and there was a cover story in U.S. News and World Report. And you can buy a book today, and you can see a mirrored website of what it was at the time. I thought it was, you couldn't do this today because there's far too many people online. Back in '96, the internet was primarily a United States. It was definitely USA centric.
Their website received a whopping 4 million hits in 24 hours. Unprecedented.
Yeah. Well, at the time, think about it.
Yeah.
They couldn't you were dealing with T1 they were T1s then.
Yeah.
So 1.5 megs if you had the hundreds of dollars a month to pay for that. Most people, let me see, this would have been before.
This would have been in university, so they were running T3s, maybe a DS3, but probably not. So you're looking at 50 megabits as their entire total sum of bandwidth, and most of the clients would have been running at 14.4 probably.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe 28.8 at the time. That's right about, I think, the time 28.8 was starting to come out. So it was just, I had never heard of it. In all of my years of cyber life, I had never heard of this. I just thought it was interesting. And so there's a link to the Wikipedia page that talks about it. It was just interesting. So that happened this week in history.
I love stuff like that. Yeah. You look back and you see how far we've come in such a short period of time, right? That was 1996, so just under 30 years ago. 20 years ago, just under 20 years ago. Where are we going to be in 2035, right?
Right.
Because it's not, even at scale growth, it would be pretty phenomenal. But it's not going to be scale growth. It's going to be exponential growth. It has been exponential growth, and for all intents and purposes, will be forever.
Let's see. At exponential growth, I think I'd have 2 megs at my house in 20 years.
Yeah, but you'll be viewing it on your new hologram generator.
There you go. Well, unless they figure out how to do that Wi-Fi or WiMAX for everybody. Unless they figure out how to do that one.
Yeah.
Make it profitable.
I think there will come a time where both the power that powers your device and the data that you're looking at on your device will come from space. It will be satellite driven, both power and data, and they will be the same feed. The feed that powers up your data device will also give it the data.
PoE, huh?
Yeah.
Power over air?
Yes.
PoA?
I mean, that's doable now. There are wireless charging devices now, and it's
Qi charging.
And well, there's that, but we just did a story about one a few weeks ago that can do Qi charging 15 feet away. Well, that's an infant technology, but it's going to improve. We'll be irradiating ourselves, but that's okay.
It's that way anyway.
Yeah. Okay, this is the part of the show where I tell you how you can tell me how wrong I am. elementop.com. Click the Contact Us button at the top of the. Actually, 2, maybe 3 of the emails that I got had the subject line, "Mark is wrong," or "Mark, you're wrong," or "I'm sorry, you're wrong," something to that.
That's awesome.
Something to that effect. So if you want to tell me how wrong I am about anything, not just this show, but any of the past, go to elementop.com, click the Contact Us button at the top of the page, and let your vitriol fly. I do promise I will read it. I read all of them. If you want to send something to all three of us and you're afraid I will filter it and that the other guys won't see how wrong I was, you can send a message to edl@elementop.com. All three of us will get that. Or if you want to be like Batman and have your very own voice recording here on the show, you can call 559-IAM-OPI. That is a free call anywhere in North America. If you're outside of North America, just send me an audio file. That'll count too. We truly do love to hear from you, even if you're telling me that I'm wrong. I don't mind that. Again, you're the reason we do this show. Otherwise, we would just have a phone call and not need all of these mics and fancy equipment. So you are literally the reason we do this, and we like to hear from you. Chris, Seth, as always, you were awesome today. Awesome.
Nice.
And thank you for being the great host that you are. Oh, did I forget that? I'm sorry. I scrolled right past it. Seth, what do you have this week to lower my productivity so that you look like a better hiring option?
Okay, this one I've been sitting on for a while. It's just a cool map to pull up and watch. Map.ipviking.com. It is a graphical representation of real-time attack vectors going on the internet, and basically it shows America getting hammered from the rest.
This is like Missile Command. It's like watching that game, Missile Command, and everything from Europe and Central Asia and Russia is all hitting at the U.S.
Yep. It's like, would you like to play thermonuclear detonation? And yeah, but America's giving back. So, we take turns blowing up little pieces of the world, but the entire world, China, Europe, even this little like Falkland Island base out in the middle of the South Atlantic.
It's just radiating crap.
It's just cool
I want to know
watch.
why we're blowing up our own people too. Did you notice that? There's a lot of stuff directing at our stuff.
Look at how much of it is
the money,
dedicated at Redmond, Washington, up there in the top left.
Yep.
I mean, that's where the red lines, I'm assuming the colors denote the intensity of the attack.
Well, no, the color denotes what it is. You can kind of see whether it's it just
unknown
says
SSH or
NetBIOS. Look at all the NetBIOS attacks launched at Microsoft. Look at Microsoft is like under a mushroom cloud of attacks at this moment.
Yep.
It's more since I started talking. It's like I drew attention to them.
I want to put this up on a live monitor at my work. I think this would be hilarious. Could you imagine all the comments I'd get?
Oh, this is amazing.
Yeah, it's neat. They talked about it on Security Now, but that's been many months ago, and I've been holding on to this one. I just thought, again, you shouldn't necessarily fear the world, and it's not cyber warfare Armageddon. It's just botnets of the world attacking each other, and just kind of seeing it in real time, a graphical representation of it.
At this moment in time, as we speak, 9:13 p.m. Eastern Time on February the 8th, over 400 attacks are being launched at the U.S. right now.
Yep.
I think it's crazy when you look at the attack types that SSH and Telnet are on the top.
Well, no, actually, Mark, that was the attack origins. The attack targets are on the other side. The USA's up like
that's what I was looking at. 400. Now it's up to 495 hit. It's about to hit 500 before I finish this sentence. Attacks aimed at the U.S.
And that counter starts when you access the website. Like it's over 1,000.
Okay.
So, and apparently this massive one just kind of took over my entire screen from the entire world in outer space. We're being satellite bombarded. It's just cool to watch.
It's really awesome. I could spend hours watching this. I may make. I wonder if they make a screensaver out of this. That would be great. Okay.
Somebody just got rained on. That was intense.
It's somebody called down an airstrike. Bring the pain. Yeah. Just boom.
That was good. It's all heading towards Redmond.
Yes.
Wow. Yep. Port 5902. What port would that be?
We are such geeks. Oh. Okay.
So see, my plan works.
That's right. Yeah, I would get no work done
Absolutely.
If I still worked where I did and I had my office, I would have a projector with this up on the wall at like 4 feet.
Me too.
And I'd just be watching it. My assistant and I would spend all day watching
Leave me
Missile
alone.
Command.
I'm busy. We're under attack.
Okay, 5902. In case anyone is curious, port 5902 is for VNC.
Oh yes, I knew that.
I did not. Well, I was curious to
Yeah, I
see why would
forgot.
that port be getting, pounded into the nothingness.
That's
but
why I always use alternative ports on my outward-facing VNC. I do have one that I use, and it's a port that it's very unlikely to be guessed, and I have my firewall set to cancel anything that looks like it's scanning.
And there was a story a couple of weeks ago, I think it got cut from our thing. There was an unpatched flaw in the current build of VNC that, so that could very well be why that one is getting targeted.
Oh, here comes another wave. My whole machine slows down when they happens. So I know it's a big one because there's no other movement on the map, and all of a sudden a rain of events come down. That's
Oh,
on port. Wow, that's a high one.
what is
That's
that little
nice.
thing out there in the Pacific doing? It's just launching like crazy. Zombies machines. Oh, okay. This is riveting radio. Listening to us watch a screen and comment on it. Map.ipviking.com. Go check it out. And again, thank you for checking out the show. And before we get on to Enwrapped in this website, I can't even talk because I'm watching it. I'm going to say that ends this episode of Everyday Linux.
Take cover!
Incoming!
It's raining! Good night, all.
Bye. If you're still out there, good night and good luck.
We hope you make it through the night, Redmond.
No, not really.
All right. And those of you watching live, thanks. And we'll see you next week.